Today I'm going to share a bit of a message about miracles and mysteries. Before that, I'm just going to pray, so pray with me. Creator God, we do thank you for the miracles of life. We thank you for the blessings. And as I share my words today, may only truth be spoken and may only truth be heard. Amen. So at the beginning of the service, we talked about the blessing of spring. And I think it deserves another big round of applause because we have been waiting a long time for spring to come. We've been waiting a long time. It's kind of like that in our life too, when we go through dark times. We're waiting for the spring of our life. We think spring just comes in, with the seasons that change. But we have spring in our hearts quite often and maybe don't recognize it as such. So just something to tuck away as we continue to share this message this morning. Spring for me is hope. Hope for brighter days ahead. And clearly we do have brighter days because the sun is positioned differently in the sky, so we're having more sunlight. Although we lost an hour when the clocks sprang forward, we gained more sunlight. And just like flowers and the buds on the trees, we start to come to life again. We start to see the hope and promise of brighter days ahead, both figuratively speaking and also in our creation. The sunlight recharges us. The fresher air revives us. And we're reminded again of the fresh starts that are promised to us. Creation truly is a mystery. Scientists seek to understand it continually since the beginning of time, looking to the stars for answers, looking down into the core of our planet, this floating rock that we're floating on in the middle of a massive galaxy. Think about that for a minute. It's fascinating. And how often do we actually sit and think about that particular element of this life that we're living? I question often, since I was a little girl, what am I doing here? What is this all about? What is life? What is this constant process and journey that we go through? We're born babies, we're fresh and pink, we come out screaming. I say I came out screaming in the key of C. And then we go on this journey. And something that we do every day, since we were big enough when our parents would put us up on a little step stool so we could brush our teeth for the very first time. And from that time on, we see ourselves, a reflection of ourselves in the mirror, and we see how we change on the outside. And then when you think deeply inside, how as that outer shell of us changes, as does the internal part of us. And as Christians, or followers, or believers, or just people that are curious seekers of the mystery of this life, over time, those words of God become written on our hearts as we seek to serve and help people experience their spring in their life. I don't think it's any coincidence when somebody's having a good day, you got a spring in your step, right? That's a saying, but it's so true. We have a spring in our step. We walk differently. We carry ourselves differently. When we have God and His words and the life of Christ and Jesus' light inside of us, we also walk differently. We approach life differently. And that doesn't mean that we don't have bad days, because we do. We do have bad days. We all have bad days. We all have days where we just want to pull the blankets over our head and say, yeah, not today. But somehow or other, we find ourselves back into that nice, fresh light. As a community, we connect with one another. And we can certainly see, as we see in the announcements and in the community time, the love and the support that's weaving through this beautiful tapestry that we have here at Trinity and at Mount Zion. So the other part of creation that amazes me is how, in the song Ordinary Miracles, how do the buds know when to pop? How do the birds know when it's time? The robins, like, everyone gets excited. Oh, I saw a robin today. I saw a robin today. And it's like this hope jumps inside of us because we've seen the bird of spring, the robin that shows up. And so we had a couple in our backyard. It was amazing. They were hopping along the back fence. One was chasing the other, and, well, you can figure the rest out for yourself because it is spring after all. But it's encouraging and it's uplifting. It's just, it amazes me over and over and over again. There was a lone dove that showed up in our yard as well. And I watched that dove for a very long time, and I like to talk to the birds, hoo, coo, and stuff like that. I'm sure my neighbors have some concerns about me, but I don't care. I'm living out loud, so that's that Jesus light in me, right? Just keeps me going. And I felt sadness for that lone dove because they mate for life, and there was no mate in sight. But she or he was just standing there. It almost felt like she was watching me, watching her. And it was just so amazing to me to try to make that little bit of an energy connection with this beautiful bird. I wonder what her story is. I think that way when I look at people. I wonder what your story is. Everyone has one. And generally, if it's a story that's led you down a path where it's been somewhat overgrown, dark and murky, to see that ray of light shining out in the distance, leading you through the mystery and the miracle of creation and life. I was going to share the story about my squirrel and my cat in the yard, but maybe I'll save that for a little bit further into the message. Today in our reading, Jeremiah was called. He was called into ministry to be a prophet when he was 17, according to my research. A young man, unsure of what that would truly mean. And as his journey continued, because he did answer the call, he was called to lead the people out of Israel. There was so much going on there, a lot of things that were not of a Christian nature, let's just say. And God was not happy with them. And so Jeremiah was called to lead the people away. And in the reading, it speaks of how you would not have to tell your neighbor to seek the Lord, for they will already know the Lord. So that was his mission that he was assigned. And I'm sure he must have accepted that mission with great trepidation, right? I'm just a young man. Are they going to listen to me? Like, who's going to listen to me? But because he had that conviction, that desire, that light in his heart, that fire in his belly to help be a change maker and to help be that vessel that would help people come to know a better way of life. We are that people. We are that people every day that we say something kind to someone or we smile. Or in our times we reach out, we pick up that phone and make a phone call. We drop something off on someone's front porch when they're not expecting it. We send a little handwritten note in the mail. I received a handwritten note in the mail this week from my cousin and a little package. I was so excited. I didn't know it was from her. All it was an address on there. And I opened it up, and it was the most beautiful gesture. Love comes in little simple seeds that we plant in others. And then we watch the miracle and the mystery as they sprout within us. And with that, we can get through anything. And clearly we have. We truly have. We're in a far better place because our love of Christ is written on our hearts. I want to share a story now about fresh starts in my life. I always like to tell a little bit of a personal story because we are human. And as I mentioned, I'd like to know your stories. I want to believe that sometimes people want to know my story. And so one of the things that was a real life-changing, miraculous, mysterious thing that happened in my life was when I was moved away from my family in Nova Scotia. And I know I talk about that a fair bit when I have a chance to speak. And thinking that, my life was done. My life was over. I had no friends. I was moving to, it felt like a foreign land. Maybe like the Israelites being led away to be saved. I spent quite a bit of time alone. And I am and always have been a bit of a social being. And for those that know me, I really don't have any problem with the art of conversation. And I like a good conversation and have a good laugh with friends. In fact, I thrive on that. It's my energy booster. And it was very, very challenging times for me. And I had to go to a new school, which shouldn't have been a big deal for me because I had moved around a lot in the military, right? So I went to different schools. But this time it was different. I wasn't in my province anymore. I was in a whole different province. It was a whole different culture, feel to me. And I remember being with my mother out for a walk, and I said hello to someone, and she told me, "Oh, no, you can't be doing that because you're not in Milton anymore, right? You're not in Kansas anymore, Dorothy, right? You're now in London, Ontario. And so you got to be careful. You're in the big city now." And so that stayed with me, and it made me just a little bit more hesitant. I was a little bit fearful of what could happen to me. And so I just continued on. I spent a lot of time by myself. I went for walks, and I baked a lot. And then one evening, we went out for dinner. We went to Mother's Pizza. When there used to be the Mother's Pizza on Wellington Road, I loved that place. I was a meatball tester, right? So I don't know why she wanted me to test the meatballs, but I was the one. I'd show up, and she'd say, "Here, eat these meatballs." So I'm like, okay, I guess that's part of the job. I don't remember that, but I'll eat the meatballs. And one night we stayed after. We had a little staff thing out in the restaurant area, and we had pizza and meatballs. And I met one of the servers, and I remembered that I had seen her in school in the halls. So I thought, I've got to step outside my comfort zone here because I'm really going through withdrawal. I need to put myself out there, and I need to make a friend. So I said to her, "I recognize you from school." And she immediately responded. And from that day forward, we became the best of friends. And she introduced me to her circle. And I felt safe. I felt safe because she had invited me into her safe space. And the rest had taken its own course from that time on. That was 43 years ago. I was her maid of honor at her wedding, and she was mine. And we still stay connected. But I'll never forget her. And it was just such, to me, a miracle and the mystery of how I connected with her, this person that almost knew what was missing in my heart. And it was like we had always been friends for all of our life. It's like here at Trinity, when we invite new people to come with us or to tune in at home, to enjoy a service or an event that may be being aired live out there in the World Wide Web area out there. It still is a mystery to me how this even works, really. How is this even happening? I look in the sky a lot. I'm a star seeker. I'm actually looking for little stars that are moving slow and thinking, I wonder if that's a UFO or whatever it might be. And every once in a while I'll see a satellite go over and I think, okay, well maybe that's the one that's helping us bring our message into the homes during this time of change and challenge. Always looking for the mystery. Always knowing that we can invite others that might be afraid, that are hiding out at their own space, to say, come join me sometime. It's safe. You're safe with me. Come and join us sometime. We never know what miracle that we can extend to another human soul just by saying, come and join us. Come see what we're all about. It's amazing to me. Amazing to me. I have a couple of plaques at home that really speak to me. They're in my living room, and I clearly spend a lot of time at home now as well. I'm very much enjoying my quiet space. And as I was preparing, I was sitting and just discerning the scripture reading and just thinking about what message I could possibly bring that would bring some light and some hope, uplift. And I have a plaque just by my television, and it says, to the world, you may be one person, but to one person, you may be the world. And it just struck me. If we all thought that way, and in my heart, I want to believe we do, you could be that one person to another person. You could be their world. You could be the person that actually helped them through an experience that we don't even know about by extending a hand. Amazing to me. And the other is, do it because they said you couldn't. Nothing lights a fire in me than somebody saying, you can't do that. And I'm like, oh, you'd watch me now. I'm doing it. Because it's really important to have that fuel inside of you. And then I had a lovely visit with our good friend Rosemary. We had a nice outside visit. It was so nice to see her. I haven't seen Rosemary for about a year. We communicate back and forth a little bit. But our lives were completely changed when we weren't running a program together that we shared that was so wonderful. And she brought me these. They're bean seeds. And it reminded me of a time when we did planting. Remember that, Linda? So much fun we had. I had never planted seeds before. Never planted seeds. I thought, I wonder why I had never done this before. And now I plant seeds. That was 4 years ago now, about 4 years ago. So I plant seeds every spring. But inside this bag is just like a little seed. Most of you probably have done planting, so you know. And I'm going to soak these seeds in some water, and then I'm going to put them in some earth. And I'm going to grow some beans. How is it even possible that that little seed knows exactly what to do? But yet, how wonderful is it that we're also these little seeds? We start out as a little tiny little seed. And then we grow, and just innately we seem to know what to do. And when we don't, we reach out to that person that we trust, our good friends or our community. So I'm excited to plant these seeds. And in closing, I'm going to give you a little update on my plant. Now, I don't know if some of you recall, you may recall, my dirty fingernails when I talked about the plant that I transplanted the babies a couple years ago. I'm very, very happy to say that 2 of those babies are now living in new homes. And the mother plant has 4 new babies popped out. So I'm going to be transplanting those 4 new babies into pots. And then I'm going to give them away so that they can experience a new home and a new life. But how incredible is it that that one plant that started out with a little skinny little stalk has grown and it just keeps multiplying? How can this be? That's a mystery, but it's a miracle. We are that way, aren't we? Sprouting new ideas, sprouting new hope, sharing hope, helping other people find hope, having faith, listening to the words of love and the light that is written on our hearts. Amazing. I'm grateful for the miracle of the Garden of Trinity and for the mystery of what is next in all of our lives. Things don't always go as planned, and there are things we cannot control. But there are things we can control. How we embrace our circumstances, and how we can even dig inside of our faith in our heart and love and be grateful for the storms. Because we know the storms will pass and the light will come. Remember, to the world you may be one person, but to one person you may be the world. May it be so.